So I really want you to get, from the very beginning, we're going to talk more about it, but motivation and engagement are two very different concepts. So the question is, what would be the impact if everybody in your organization played full out? In other words, if everybody was really engaged. And over the last decade, there's been a great deal of research in this area. Here are some of the findings. One is that in organizations in which there are higher levels of engagement, employees simply are more productive and they perform at a higher level. In fact, if we take organizations and we're able to institute programs that increase and engage individuals, we see an uptick in performance and productivity. Profitability, so looking at actually publicly traded companies and earnings per share, again, associated with organizations with highly engaged employees outperforming those with lower engaged employees. Turnover. Now, turnover, so employees that are disengaged will turn over at a higher level, somewhere around 4 times engaged employees. On one hand, that's good. On the other hand, that's really bad, given our current economy, right? I recently did a survey and a poll with AOL, Huffington Post. And one of the questions that I asked, we talked about respect, was, would you take another job tomorrow if offered, right? Same benefits, same pay. 72% of Americans said they would take another job tomorrow if they could. You get that? 72%. So one of the problems here is in the past, when we had better economic times, individuals that were highly disengaged, they go find another job. In today's economic climate, that's not true, right? Because of security and safety reasons. So they're staying in those positions, by the way, not playing full out, right? Just doing what they need to do to collect a paycheck, right? So they're really losing as human beings, and obviously your organization is losing as well. Now, more on a bottom line level is the issue of absenteeism. So what we find is that individuals that are disengaged are at much greater risk for not coming to work. And you might even think yourself, various jobs that you've held, there was a time in your life when you woke up and you didn't feel well. And you legitimately could have called out of work, and you did. And then there was another time when you felt exactly the same way, and yet you went to work, right? Because you were really engaged. So what was the difference between those two? And one of the things that I would say is, actually, in this particular case, you really felt as though coming to work made a difference. Made a difference for your team. It made your supervisor, right? It would disappoint your supervisor. One of the things, if you want to know this, and again, intrusive thought, my wife is now becoming an elementary school teacher. She worked in Newark last year. She used to work as a corporate CPA for Martha Stewart, okay? Little different worlds. Everything you've heard about Martha is true. So she once got a note from one of her staff members, just writing, and it was random, really, and just said she just wanted to thank her for being such a wonderful supervisor, for helping her to grow and develop and have her back. So you want to know if you're a great supervisor, a great leader? Ask yourself, have I ever gotten a note like that? And who would I have to be for my employees that they would want to recognize me like that? Right? So one of the things that I say is, right, and again, you know from your own life, that a really powerful supervisor or leader is the kind of person that if they said to you, Paul, I really expected more from you, it would be like a dagger through the heart, right? Like, really. Okay, so absenteeism really contributing to bottom line kinds of problems for disengaged employees who don't show up. Employee fraud. Worked recently with a company where it was very clear there was an individual who was highly disengaged, had a largely disengaged workforce, and they caught one of the folks in the maintenance department who was stealing. He had stolen, they figured, about $10,000 worth of scrap metal. And by the way, I mean, so stealing materials, literally people who are going in and raiding your supply closet. But more than that, I think, is actually stealing, committing fraud for an organization when they're actually not giving their best, right? When you're not giving the dollars pay, dollars work kind of thing, right? Or they're coming in late, right? Or they're playing on their BlackBerries, whatever it is. So for me, actually, and this is really clear, employees who are disengaged are committing fraud broadly and at all levels. Really good data about customers being more satisfied and loyal when employees are engaged. And I certainly think that we can have long discussions. I do a lot on customer service around going to a big box store. By the way, when did it become the case that when we checked out of some way that we actually end up thanking the clerk? Do you notice that? When did that start? As opposed to, hey, I really appreciate you shopping with us because I have a job because of you, right? But you ever notice, oh, thank you, I just gave you my money. All right. So quality defects, again, really great data. You know this. Somebody who's engaged in their work, somebody who's paying attention to their work, much less likely to make errors. Safety compliance issues in general, by the way. Again, higher levels of employee satisfaction, and actually even physical and psychological well-being. And really good data around this. You can imagine if somebody's really disengaged, they also tend to be more stressed. And by the way, they also tend to bring that up home to their families. So what I want you to get is that engagement matters. It matters to your organization, and it matters in ways that motivated employees do not. Motivation is not associated with all these kinds of behavioral outcomes.